Word of the day. Tired. I'm tired. I cleaned my little heart out and I'm still not done. But let me tell you what happened yesterday. This pipe right here was loose. It came off and it spilled water all over the place. And I had to clean all this up. My rug was soaked. The floor was flooded. It was horrible. Horrible, you all. But this is what I wanted to show you. It doesn't come off easily. And my son and I were shocked that this was like actually hanging off. How? The cleaning supplies that I have don't even come near it. And somehow it came off. Even this box over here, it's on this side and these are all tightly on as well. And it's, see how far away it is from this box? So I'm still freaked out. And then this tipped over. This is my cleaning bottle that tipped over. And that spilled as well. It was a big old mess. Okay, so I had to come back. Yeah, it was a big mess. But I cleaned even this rug. I cleaned that rug over there. I'm in my jammies. There's another box for Tabby, even though she's got 2 boxes already. But once she ruins those, she'll have another one. And we're gonna go pick up my son already. And it's actually quite warm outside. I was watching that guy that I watch all the time about the counseling. Although now he has guests. And they're all right. I mean, the guests are okay, but yeah, it's kind of getting kind of like not interesting for now. I don't know. Let's get outside and then I'll tell you all about my week so far. And it's only Tuesday. Oh, by the way, we're green now. Remember for Halloween we were red? Or purple? No, we were purple for Halloween. Now it's green. Say hi to the ring camera. This stain has been there forever already. They have their guests to park here. See, this parking spot right here is for maintenance. But they are not here right now. They're always parking here. They have their guests parked here. They have this parking space and the one after that. But you know how people are. Look at how ugly it looks in here. It's bubbling. Put that there. It's bubbling. All I have to do is peel it off and it won't look as bad, right? It's actually the glass under there, but I don't want to take it off. It's gonna look like, I know my son's gonna get his paw prints all over it, and I don't like that. Yeah, so yesterday that happened. And then, oh yeah, I was getting a coffee at the Dunkin' Donuts. And then Dunkin' Donuts had the drive-thru blocked. And I was like, what the hell? So I go around and I see a whole bunch of papers like taped everywhere. And I'm like, how is anybody supposed to see those papers if you have everything blocked? There's no point putting them on the drive-thru if it's blocked, So then I go to Starbucks, which I don't like. My son knows what to order. I don't know. I tried to order what he got me last time, which was a gingerbread cookie frappuccino. I think that's what it's called. But I got it iced because less calories that way, right? Well, yeah, it tasted like crap. It tasted like turpentine. I've never tasted turpentine, but I can imagine. It had no flavor in it whatsoever. None. And I had a hard time trying to drink it. I wanted to take it back, but I waited I got there around 4:43 and didn't get out of there until about 5 o'clock. I'm still debating whether to post that video or not. I deleted it, but it's still in my deleted file, so I could still get it. I was in a bad mood yesterday, you all, and I was wanting a coffee so bad to make me feel better, and then that was going on. Ugh. And today was a little bit better. The weather was beautiful. However, the husband was in a talking mood today of all days. I was tired. I was dead tired already by the time we talked. I didn't want to talk. My cousin called me as well. I really didn't want to talk, but I was just like, okay, look, I'll listen. You know, I'll just listen. Shut up and listen. So I was just listening to her, and we were talking and stuff. And since she's a medical assistant, and she's been doing it for years, I kind of asked her a lot of questions, you know, and she was able to answer a whole bunch of them. Now, I do have an appointment with the gyno on Thursday. I went about 2 weeks ago, or was it last week? No, it was 2 weeks ago. I went 2 weeks ago, and I was telling her that I was a little surprised because I was telling, you know, the doctor what I've been feeling and everything, and next thing I know, she's telling me to go ahead and remove your pants and your undies, and I will be right back. And I'm like, huh? What? Excuse me? And she just walks out. And I was just like, you're kidding me. My husband doesn't even say that, you know, what? And so I'm like, well, shoot, what am I going to do here? Am I going to have to do this? What is she going to do? She didn't even say what she was going to do, right? So I'm like, all right. So I removed the bottoms, you know, got on the table and put that paper thingy over. And she comes back right away, right? And then next thing I know, she's telling me, go ahead and lay back and put your feet on the stirrups. And meantime, I'm like, well, what's going on? What are we gonna do? I don't like this. And she's like, oh, I know, nobody likes this, but we'll be quick. I'm gonna take a swab. That's all I'm gonna do. I just want to rule out anything else. And I was just like, okay. I guess my neighbor over here in the car is playing something that they're talking that I can't even hear myself talk. So we're getting ready to turn. My car is filthy, you all. She needs to be washed. Tabby number 2 needs to be washed. Okay, so she does her thing and everything, and it was quick, thank God. And so Thursday I go for the results, you know. And I know TMI, but us women can relate. And I was asking my cousin about other things, you know, and I told her, hey, you know what, that soap that I bought from that lady that cost $15, the turmeric soap, it does wonders for the rest of my skin, but what I wanted it for was for pigmentation in other areas, if you know what I mean, ladies. It doesn't do anything. Nothing, nada. So, I don't know. I've been seeing this thing advertised on Instagram. That's like a vitamin C serum. And you can use that. And apparently it does wonders. You know? So, I'm going to try that next. But first, I'm going to finish this turmeric soap. Because I have it in a little soap box. So, it doesn't disintegrate as much. And then another thing that I asked my cousin, and maybe you all might know, is what kind of soap do you all use? I've been using Dial for years. It's antibacterial. It smells good. I feel clean. However, now that I'm older, I've noticed that I am so sensitive to everything. Everything. And lately, it's been drying my skin. I don't know if y'all could tell here. It's been drying my skin so bad. And I was telling my cousin this. I said, what kind of soap do you use, or do you use body wash? And she said, I had to give up the soaps. I'm using body wash now because for the same reason. My skin gets real dry and I have dry patches on my lower legs. And I said, so do I. That's why I'm asking. And not only do I have patches on my lower legs, like one on each leg, I also have it on the back of my neck. And sometimes I itch. And I said, the other day, my whole body was stinging. My entire body, you all. I mean, it was like somebody let out some ants or something all over me. And I kept putting cream to moisturize, and it would subside for a little bit, and then I would start up all over again. So I know it's the body wash. I know I've talked about this before. I mean, the soap. I've talked about this before, but you know, she's like, oh, why don't you use Dove Sensitive? Have you tried that? And I said, yes, I have. And I go, you know, I don't feel clean with it. And she's like, yeah, I know what you mean. And then she says, like, what about that Yardy or Yard, whatever? It's an oatmeal soap. And I said, you know what? I haven't tried that. Maybe I should try that next. Because even like the Oil of Olay bar soaps, they're so high in perfume and the body washes that I still get the same results. I still dry out real bad. And she's like, you know, the Victoria's Secrets, I used to use their body washes, so I had to stop. And I said, me too. I said, I got contact dermatitis with Victoria's Secrets. The perfume in it is so bad that, I mean, I literally broke out everywhere. And I had to go again to the doctor, and I let them know what I was using and everything. And they're like, yeah, you just don't use that, you know. I can use the Bath and Body. That's all right with me. However, we can't use it in those sensitive areas, ladies, if you know what I mean. So that's where I'm stuck again. I'm like, okay, so I'm just back to the Dial again. I want to feel clean. Now, I will say this. I'm giving the Aveeno body wash. Why am I even talking about this crap here? Anyway, I'm giving the Aveeno body wash a chance. So far, I'm smelling myself. It smells good. It's very soft. It's a very soft, clean smell. And I do feel clean everywhere. And what I mean by everywhere, I mean everywhere. Okay? So I'm gonna try to use that for the next couple of days, see how I do. Okay, so now that we've gotten that out of the way, I'm pretty sure you all are like, aren't you gonna talk about your week? You said you had a bad week. Yes, I just didn't want to make this a depressing video. So oh, and by the way, you all, let me just tell you all one thing. When I'm in chats, or if I'm chatting with you, or we're DMing or whatever, I'm always in the shower. I take like 2 to 3 showers a day. You know, maybe it's an obsessive compulsive disorder that I have with this cleanliness. I don't know. Maybe I should talk to the therapist about that, because if I don't feel clean, I need to bathe. You know, if I go to the bathroom, if you know what I mean, I have to bathe right after. Even though you clean up and everything, even if you use a wipey, whatever you use, I still gotta bathe. I just have to, you know? I know, I'm weird. I'm so weird, but if I ever, like, I'm talking to you or whatever, I gotta go shower. You know why, okay? oh, okay, that's Moon just going to the shower again. She's always showering. That's me. You can associate me with a shower. And it kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Because the moon is what causes the waves in the ocean, right? So it kind of makes sense how I love the water too. Anyhow, and then I'm a Cancer, but I'm not going to claim that. So that happened yesterday, right? I think I already talked about what happened last week with that strange lady that was sus that came to my door. And the phone call while I was minding my business, right? The phone call from that lady from the car lot. Well, I was cleaning today, minding my business again. I had already gotten on my bike. I was like debating, should I get on the bike or not? I'm really tired. My back hurts. Got on the bike because I feel like if I don't do it, I'm going to get fat again quick, you know? And we don't want that. We do not want that. So, yeah, that's another thing I'm like really obsessing over now is my weight. Because I just don't, I still need to lose some weight. Anyway, all of a sudden I get a text with a picture. And it's a picture of somebody that's wanted. And so I'm like, what is this? You know, like, why are they sending this to me? And he kind of looked familiar, the person that's wanted. But I didn't want to like come out and say like, oh, is it this person? Because first of all, who are you that is texting me? You all won't believe who texted me. You all are not going to believe who texted me. Oh, okay. There's somebody else just posted a video. Y'all remember Sister Christian from the other apartments? Okay. She had not spoken to me since I moved out. So it's been over a year. We moved out in August. We're in November now. It's been over a year since we've spoken. I deleted her number from my contact list. She goes to my church. But I was like, okay, if you're not going to contact me anymore, then I'm deleting your number. Why do I want her number for, right? She's moved on. I moved on. You know? And I would see her in church every now and then. But I wouldn't go out of my way to say hi to her. She sat in the very front on the other side. I sat on this side in the back with my church buddy, if you will. Remember that? Church buddy? Anyway, so it was her. And she's like, it's me. And I'll call her neighbor. It's me, neighbor. Ex-neighbor. We'll call her ex-neighbor. It's me, ex-neighbor. Are you not wearing your contacts? And I'm like, what the hell is she talking about? I wear glasses. I've never worn contacts. Anyway, I was just like, oh, okay. No, it's because I got a new phone. And, you know. And she's like, well, didn't they transfer all the calls? By this point, she had already called me, okay? And I was just like, well, yeah, they did. But you know how it goes, you know? Sometimes it doesn't transfer some of the phone numbers. And, you know, my storage was kind of full already. You know, and you know what it is. iPhones, you know? And she's like, yeah, I hear that a lot. And she's like, that was your neighbor from downstairs. Now, some of you all are going to remember this. Some of you all are not because you all are new to my channel. I lived above a bunch of crazy neighbors, but these neighbors took the cake, okay? These neighbors were always fighting. The guy was always banging on the wall. She was always screaming. She pulled out a knife on him at one time. I recorded the whole thing because you could hear the conversation clearly. This neighbor, ex-neighbor, she never heard a thing and she lived right next door. And I don't know how that was possible. I don't know. Maybe the vents were connected with theirs, you know, and hers weren't. I have no idea. But I even uploaded some of the videos on that I've deleted them since then because I felt like, okay, it's over. I'm out of there. Thank God. I don't want anything to do with these people. There was a time when she did pull out a knife on him. She was really, really upset with him. I didn't care about that. Oh, I shouldn't say that, right? But, you know, I figured they're at it with each other again. However, what I cared about the most was the baby. They had an infant. This infant was, I don't know, like 3-4 months old. She was screaming her head off. And I automatically got terrified for this infant and very, very concerned. Now, I couldn't go down there and knock on their door. No way. If she had a knife, who knows what she would have done to me? Who knows what he would have done? So I was up there contemplating, like, okay, do I call the cops or do I not? Because I'm really concerned for this baby. I finally decided I'm going to do it. I'm going to call the cops. I can't take it anymore. The baby was crying. They were yelling their heads off as well at each other. And I just felt the baby was not safe. So I called the police. I asked them not to come up because I didn't want them to know that I called. And they did show up. They knocked on their door, and I don't know what happened from there. So they would still argue after that, but it was not where the baby was crying like that, you know? And so I looked him up. He's actually wanted, you all. He's wanted. The picture says wanted in blank, Texas. I'm not going to say where I'm from, even though I've spoken about it. In blank, Texas, for CA of a minor. Now, I'm not talking about ABUSE. I'm talking about, what's that other word? Child? ASSUALT. And so I looked him up by name, and there was a short article, and apparently it was with a minor under the age of 15, and it was going on since 2020. So I forwarded that article to the ex-neighbor, and she was in shock. And I said, yeah, it is shocking because they weren't living there in 2020. They moved in 2023. And then I reminded her, remember, there's been 2 families that lived there. There was a couple who had that surround sound that played it really loud when we first moved in. And then they moved out. And then there was another family that moved in. The one where the dad was really abusive to the son. I mean, the dad was so awful. And I don't understand with these people. When you live in an apartment, I'm sure when you live in a home too, but when you live in an apartment, you don't realize how close you are to your neighbors and what and who they are. And they come from different backgrounds, and you are exposed to their way of living. And these people don't hide it. These people don't hide who they are. They think they are because they're inside, but they don't realize that the person above you or the person that lives under you can hear every little thing that you're saying, even if they don't want to pay attention. Just the fact that you're that loud and you're banging, we hear everything. So with that said, they lived there. And then they moved out, and the older son stayed behind for the remaining of the lease because I've already spoken about the property manager. she was going to charge him for the rest of the months. So she said, okay. I mean, he said, okay, my son will live there. He'll get a roommate, you know, and they'll pay for the rent for the rest of the months remaining, right? So he got a house apparently. They moved. And I still think about that little boy. He was close to my son's age. And I feel so bad for him. Anyway, the brother worked at the grocery store though at the HEB, and I would see him at first, and I would see the roommate as well. I don't see them there at all, so I can't even find out, hey, you know, how are y'all doing? How's your brother? You know, I don't see them. It's been a year. It's been a year since I've seen them at the HEB, so I don't know if they even work there anymore or whatever. But anyhow, once they moved, that's when the elderly couple moved in. And by the way, the elderly couple, I've never spoken about it, but I've said like, hey, there's a story there. Okay, I'm not going to mention it just yet. Okay, maybe I'll cover it at the end because it's very depressing, even for me. But anyhow, they lived there. They got a divorce. She moved into a 1-bedroom. She still lives there. The man is out. And then that's when this couple moved in. And this couple moved in. They have a daughter that's in school still. Like, gosh, I wish I could tell you how old she was. She looked like a teen. And then they had a younger son who must have been about 6, 7 at the time. They were very abusive to that son as well. They would yell at him a lot. And I wasn't talking about, hey, be quiet, nothing like that. I'm saying, what the fuck is your problem, boy? Shut the fuck up, boy. Do you not hear what I'm saying, boy? Like that. Okay? And I was just like, holy cow. Like, I would panic at those times because I'm like, what are they doing to this child, you know? And I never told the property manager about it because she never gave a shit anyway. So, then the baby. Then they had the baby. So they had a total of 3 kids. They were living in a 2-bedroom apartment. Now, as the property manager, she should not have allowed that to begin with because children need room to move around. So you're telling me that 3 children were in 1 bedroom, the baby, the teenager, and the 6-year-old, and then they were in their master bedroom, or maybe let's give the benefit of the doubt. Maybe the baby was in the master bedroom with them, right, with the parents. But where was the teen then? With the 6-year-old? You know, and that's something that the property manager is at fault at, is she should not have allowed that. I believe Texas has a law against that. You cannot have a brother and sister together when they're a certain age. But I don't know what the ages are. I didn't research it before I started my video. I'll probably do that afterwards. Anyhow, so back to the ex-neighbor. I was telling her, yeah, so if this was happening since 2020, they moved in 2023. Where was the background check? Where was the background check done? You know what? She never did one. She chose who she wanted to do background checks on. All she cared about was filling a unit. She didn't care who they were. And that's why we went through so many neighbors that were psychotic like this. Because all she cared about was meeting the quota for the month. Not having any empty units. So she could look good. Now the ex-neighbor says, well, now she knows. Now she knows that this guy, what he's convicted of. And I said, yeah, well, hopefully she won't let him back in. Because knowing her, being an ex-con herself, she'll probably allow him back in. So now this is a wanted man. He's 43 years old. And I feel bad for the wife. I have a feeling now that the wife knew. She knew something, or... No, let me back up. I want to correct myself. I don't think she knew it was a minor. I think she suspected something. Because that night that she had pulled the knife out, he was telling her, I love you. You're beautiful to me. I love you. There's nobody else. Oh my God, that sounds so familiar. Anyway, there's nobody else. It's just you. And now I'm thinking, wow, she must have suspected something back then. She must have seen something, heard something. But he covered his tracks. This guy was working at P.F. Chang's. Because I remember he wore the chef's outfit. And it said P.F. Chang's right on the side. So, yeah, that really blew me away. But that article, like, I was just like, I knew there was something about this man. I am not blaming his wife at all. I think that she was getting abused by him. I know she would fight him as well. She would hit him as well, because he would say, look, you slapped me, or look, you scratched me, whatever. However, I think she had, not that that's okay, but I think she had her reasons or her breaking point. Because you never know what somebody is going through. And I'm not condoning it at all. But everybody has a breaking point. So with that said, let me go back to the elderly couple now. I'm going to share this with you all. Let me give you a little story first. Yeah, I've spoken about this before on how my husband, he was abusive towards me as well. He was a drinker and he was abusive, and now he's narrowed it down to no longer being physical with me, but he's still emotionally abusive towards me. And he's narcissistic, and he does have a temper. So when he has a temper, he will throw something, not at me per se, but he'll throw something. My neighbor downstairs heard a couple of things, a couple of times. The elderly lady, she would call me on the phone wanting me to go downstairs to check on me, and she asked, are you okay? I heard this and that. And I said, oh yeah, he just, he got a little angry and he threw the remote on the floor and broke it, but that's the extent of it, and everybody's all right. And she's like, oh, okay. And she's like, she started telling me about her husband. There were times when I would hear her husband hitting the wall as well. And I didn't know what was going on, but she shared with me that her husband would get very upset. He would throw their cat against the wall. The cat, thank God, never was severely injured, and she has possession of that cat. So that cat doesn't have to worry about being abused by this man. Now, he was abusive with her at times as well. And you're talking about an elderly couple that met at a nursing home and decided to move out of that nursing home, get married, and move in together into these apartments. Then she started telling me on how, and by the way, this man was in the service. He would wear a hat where it said he was a veteran. So I don't know what rank or what division, you know, I'm not sure. I want to say Army, but anyway, I don't know what he was doing with his checks, but he had a son that would come by, and this son, older son, he wasn't young, he was maybe in his late 40s. He would come over for money, and she said that he didn't have any, so she had to give him her money to lend to his son, or rather to give to the son, not even lend. So going through all that, she finally threw him out and divorced him. Good for her. And I was so happy for her when I heard that. However, here's the depressing part. I began to think, I'm already up in age. I'm not going to reveal my age. I'm a Gen Xer. The husband is a boomer. My husband. And sometimes you all will notice that I call him the husband, or I'll call him my husband. There's a story behind that. That's all I can say. You know, and you should already get it by now, by the way, by everything I've said, basically, as to why I don't feel comfortable calling him my husband all the time. But I started thinking about myself and the husband, and how are we going to get to that age and still be going through this? Am I going to have to live the rest of my life like this? Is it going to stop? Now, I can say this much. Things have gotten way better. He doesn't drink at all, because he's a truck driver, so he can't be drinking on a daily. They check for that. They also do random drug testing, so he can't do any drugs. Not that I know of did he ever do anything like that. However, when we first lived at the other apartments, my older son did tell me that he approached him and a friend of his and asked if they sold any what should I call it? COKE? You know? Pop? And my son said no. And so I did ask him when we started dating, I asked him, did you ever approach my son and asked if he sold that? And he was like, well, yeah, but I was only testing him. For what? Well, because I thought they were up to no good and I was going to turn them in. Right. Okay, so that's when we first met, and mind you, when we first met, I had no problem leaving him. I had my own apartment. I didn't need him. I was working, had my own apartment, was doing just fine with my kids, you know. But yeah, he used to work locally, and when he worked locally, he would drink every night. When we moved in together into the house that we were renting, on Fridays, I dreaded Fridays. I will never forget Fridays. He would go out to play pool with his friends, come back by midnight, and I did not know what was going to walk in through the door. I was in bed, but he would come in very violently and start yelling at me and just being very physically abusive towards me. And then the next day wake up making me breakfast like nothing ever happened. There was one time that I asked if we could go see the fireworks. I had just gotten out of work It was the 4th of July. He was barbecuing outside. He was drinking already by himself. And I was excited to be home. And I asked him, can we go see the fireworks? I would really love to do that. We've never done that before together. And I would always see him every year, you know. And fortunately, my younger son was not there that night. However, he got really upset with me for even asking if we could go see the fireworks. And I'll never forget that I ended up with a fat, bloody lip. And I don't even know how you all, and I think it was by the power of God, he was getting ready to punch me in the face. And somehow I put my arms out and I pushed him back into the wall. Little old me. I'm only like 5'2" on a good day. And I weighed a lot less then. He's 5'8". I don't know how I managed to do that. But he left me alone the rest of the night. Now, he did force me into the truck to go watch the fireworks. We went down the street to go watch the fireworks in the trunk. And we got there for the very ending. And I'm there with holding a tissue on my lip because it was still bleeding. And he just sat there on the driver's seat, just saying nothing at all. I'm sorry if this triggered anybody. I didn't want to make this a depressing video, but there are parts of my life that I have not shared, that I haven't been too comfortable with. But having this ex-neighbor call me reminded me of that couple, and the couple before that, and the couple before that. It triggered me. It brought a memory that I didn't want to remember. Here I thought I moved on, you know, I'm happy now, somewhat, as I can get, right? We're living in a better place, and we're actually moving forward. He actually even made progress. When we were arguing over the weekend, he actually admitted he was emotionally unattached, not just to me, but to everybody. And I thought that's a good thing. Like, you're acknowledging that that's what you're dealing with. I think that's a step in the right direction so far. However, the next step needs to be him getting counseling for himself. Because then I started thinking, am I going to counseling for me, or am I going to counseling on how to handle him? I need to get better. I cannot help him. And that's something that I need to discuss with my therapist when we meet up again. Fortunately for her, but unfortunately for me, she's on vacation for 2 weeks, so I won't see her till December the 6th or something like that. So yeah, I've been having a hard time, y'all. Yeah, I really think that he needs help. I don't know what, something happened with him and his family growing up. I don't know what it is. I don't know if he doesn't want to share it with me. I've asked him several times. We already know how I grew up. I was with an abusive mother. I know why I am the way that I am and why I'm getting help. However, I can't handle how he is sometimes and him needing help, and I cannot help him because I'm not equipped to do that. I can pray for him, but I can't help him any other way. So yeah, today was great up until that point. Yeah, I don't think I want to talk to that ex-neighbor. Anyhow, I'm going to go ahead and end my video here. My son's fixing to come out. I just want to thank everybody for listening. I know I take you all on this roller coaster with me, and I appreciate each and every one of you that listen. I know some of you don't comment at all. Most of the time I close my comments anyway. But I'm sorry about that. I don't know if it's because I'm not ready for the response, whether it's good or bad. And plus, I don't like pity. I just don't like anybody to pity me. No pity. No pity here. Prayer. Only prayer for strength and wisdom, right? So I'm praying for you all too, for the same. And I love you all. You all enjoy your Tuesday and the rest of the week. Hopefully it'll go better for all of us, right? Bye.